Welcome to my channel. Today's topic is on femininity and just what it's like to be a girly girl, my advice, tips, background, and thoughts on this whole topic. I never thought I would make a video like this, to be honest. It's something that I've only really thought about in the last couple years of my life, since getting engaged, especially because I was thinking about what does it mean to be a wife? What does it mean to be a woman in a marriage? What does it mean to just be a lady, an adult female? And I really started to think about those kinds of questions when I was 23. So in the past couple years, I feel like I have really just become myself again. And what I mean by that is that there has actually been psychological research conducted where you kind of just want to go back to being your old tween self before you were influenced by culture, society, and friendship when you were a teen and young adult. And you kind of just want to get back to your roots and what you were really interested in back then, even if they were considered cringe later on. Like, for example, for me, the biggest topic is definitely Harry Potter. I was such a Potterhead when I was about 8 to 10 years old, and I was just obsessed. Everyone knew I was obsessed at school. We even had this Harry Potter club because some of my friends liked it too. And then basically I moved on and I was like, oh, that was for kids. Why was I so addicted? When I self-isolated during COVID time, when I was 21, I got re-obsessed because I spent 5 days straight reading the whole series again for the first time as an adult, and I loved it. I was expecting to kind of cringe at parts and be like, okay, I liked that part when I was 8, but I definitely don't like it when I'm 21. But that didn't happen. I loved the whole series. I thought it was amazing. And I actually just fell in love with it all over again. And I was like, yep, I had good taste when I was 8 years old, actually. What I've learned from that is going back to your roots is something that often does happen when people hit this mid-20s stage of adulthood. I am right in the middle of my 20s at the moment, and I can safely say I've become diva again. Back when I was a tween, I was pretty diva. Number 2, I love pink again, wholeheartedly. I never disliked it, but I definitely had other favorite colors. And now I'm back to just loving pink. I love being a girl. I love being feminine. I am not tomboy in the slightest anymore, because I did have a tomboy stage when I was about 15 as well. So there's just so many elements of my younger self that is my true self, where I really feel like I am the most myself that I've been in years of my life. So I'm actually in such a happy spot when it comes to my personality, the way I express myself, just being content with who I am as a person. For example, a lot of people know me as someone who is very extroverted, which is still true to an extent. I am still mainly extroverted, but I'm definitely more introverted than I was when I was younger. I used to actually think to myself, why can't I be reserved, quiet, and shy? Because a lot of people kind of think that you are more mature if you are those things, rather than being very loud and open like I was when I was younger. And I used to think to myself, low-key, I would actually want to be introverted just because of how judged I would get just by being a loud, extroverted person. And now I'm just I don't care. Yeah, I'm actually not as extroverted anymore, but I don't care what people actually think about me and perceive me as anymore, because this is just me. I'm literally just being myself. I'm being loud, diva. I love pink. I am wholeheartedly a girly girl. It just doesn't really matter to me anymore like it did when I was younger. And I think that is just a result of obviously caring about what your peers think and being a bit more self-conscious when you're 13 to 23 years old-ish, that kind of stage of your life. And now I'm just who cares? Number 1, I would say, is to read the Bible if you want to know more about femininity versus masculinity. And you might not be religious, doesn't mean you can't open up a Bible. I think that there's plenty of good ideals that it has about how women were made and how men were made and how God just envisioned the genders to be different. It is what it is. He literally made us different for a reason. And so we have different values, personalities, ways of doing things. We were literally just made to be different, but then to also try and live in harmony with each other, whether in marriage or friendship or just society as a whole. Genesis chapter 2, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. And this is when God basically makes Eve for Adam, the first humans on the planet. And so a lot of people look at that verse and they're like, ew, a helper. I don't think that women should just be someone's servant, especially male's servant. That is so gross and so derogatory. The truth is that the Hebrew word for helper actually implies strength and partnership. So literally like the male getting like their energy and their guidance from their woman. And I love that idea. I love that aspect of marriage and the fact that like I get to help guide Bill in the right direction, but he's still ultimately the leader of our family. And I love that. I actually don't find that sexist at all. Ephesians chapter 5, wives, submit to your husband. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So obviously controversial one. In my wedding vows, in front of a bunch of both Christian and non-Christian family and friends, I said I will submit to Bill in our wedding vows. And a lot of people actually change those vows these days. They actually change the word submit to respect because they know that it can cause a bit of drama. Personally, I just wanted to respect the traditional vows because to me, submission is actually not anti-feminist. Submission to me is literally just saying that I respect the fact that my man is a leader and that that is part of his masculinity. And I believe that me as a woman is there to still guide him in the right direction and he should still be listening to my opinions and I'm not his slave. But also, it means that I trust that he is actually going to make the right decisions for our family when it's needed. Like, for example, if him and I disagree on a topic multiple times, we can't really get to like a good open discussion resolution about it. I trust that he is still going to be making the right choice in the best interest for both him, me, and our future kids. And I just have to like believe that because I believe that I have genuinely married a good man. And so that's something that is controversial, but is something that is not just about, oh my goodness, a girl has to listen to everything the husband says. It's not about that because that is obviously like slavery, but it is definitely a topic that has a lot of nuance to it. And we could honestly make a whole other video on it. There's a bunch of Christian influencers who have. Those were just a couple examples that ChatGPT quickly gave me. But the point is that I grew up going to a church with family. I grew up going to a Christian school and I became a Christian myself when I was a tween. And so like I have grown up with these types of verses and knowing the differences between men and female and how God made it that way on purpose. Like we are not meant to try and be the same. And that's not to say that in this very feminist society we live in now that a woman can't try their best in her career, for example. Obviously, there were plenty of women who fought for that right in the 1800s and 1900s, which is great. But at the same time, we do have to acknowledge that females cannot do things that men can do and men cannot do things that females can do. And that can, again, be a whole other topic, but it's just, it is what it is. And having grown up with what the Bible, literally God, creator of the universe and creator of humans and gender says, I believe that there are just so many different things that you can learn about masculinity and femininity in the Bible. Second tip is actually watching influencers who talk about this topic. And that's because I stumbled across this whole topic in general when I was engaged, like I said, and I started to watch YouTubers, both Christian and non-Christian, talk about femininity and the role of a woman in just life in general and the role of a wife in marriage. And I actually found them really helpful. So literally, if you just search up feminine traits, advice videos, people will be there and be able to talk to you about this topic. And granted, there are some influencers who are kind of bordering on that toxic self-love, self-help mentality videos, which I don't think are always great. But sometimes when a topic interests me, I still watch it and I just make sure that I have my own discretion of knowing whether like what the person is actually saying agrees with my values or not. So obviously take everything with a grain of salt because it's not like we are going to be trusting influencers with our life, but they are really helpful in some cases where some influencers are just sitting down and chatting to you guys just like how I am, except I do this for fun. My third piece of advice, because now we're getting into the actual actionable items now, is to invest in your appearance and your beauty because yes, we don't want to get so far that we are in superficial territory. I know that I sometimes get into this like area of my life where I do start being judgy about looks, including judging myself on my own looks. But to invest in makeup, hair, and your outfit, it's actually like really fun. And it's actually tools that have been just given to us as females because like for men, especially straight men, like they just don't really need to care about these things as much. Like the most that they will care is putting effort into their outfits, like kind of maybe having more like edgy streetwear vibes to their outfit. And then their version of makeup is like putting a lot of effort into their hair or getting a haircut like at least monthly. They don't have to write off their appearance as much as women do. And a lot of people might think like, yeah, that is so sexist. Like I hate the fact that like we get judged on our looks way more. But I actually like enjoy it because I don't know, I just think it's a very feminine trait to actually just like believe that your looks will actually kind of get you somewhere. And I'm not saying like natural looks of like you're just born ugly or pretty, but like literally just how you present yourself and the fact that you look like you care about how you present yourself to people, you look like you groom yourself, take care of yourself, have good hygiene. And like I could definitely improve. Like I'm looking at my hair right now and it's so dry because I just have naturally dry hair, but it's just like I'm still trying my best to like put effort into my looks, and it's definitely been a journey for me myself. Like I am not actually very talented with makeup, hair, or fashion. Like I don't really consider myself to be an expert in any of those realms, but I'm interested in using them as a tool to improve my appearance and therefore my confidence and my vibe and just how I am in front of people. And I think it is genuinely a helpful thing to be able to value appearance and not like overvalue it and become a super superficial person, but just like to just, you know, like care about how you look and care about how you're actually presenting yourself to others. Because if not for others, then for yourself. For every time you see yourself in a reflection or a mirror, you can actually think to yourself, I actually look decent today. Like, wow, I'm actually ready to go out there and take some photos with my friends. I'm actually feeling more confident that a guy will maybe ask me out because I'm single and I'm looking for someone. Like, it's just those kinds of differences that it can really make in your daily life without you even realizing. And that's not to say like I never go out in sweatpants or without makeup or in a messy bun. Obviously I do, but it's just that I choose the occasions on which I'm going to put my effort into, and I try and look my best at those events. My next tip is to take care of anything in your life that is helping you be more feminine and get rid of anything that makes you kind of in your masculine and makes your nervous system kind of deregulate itself. Because for me, that would be like my health issues, a super, super stressful job. Those kinds of things definitely make me more in my masculine because I'm more like overdrive, forever concentrating, not relaxed mode. And same comes with honestly any relationships or friendships in your life that kind of make you feel like that. Because if you have friends who kind of make you feel like you are not in your feminine, like they're not really girls, they're not really encouraging, they don't really want to dress up and take photos of you, honestly, they're probably more like bringing out that masculine side of you. And that's not to say like immediately ditch any friends who are not into fashion. Like obviously that's like so toxic and I'm not saying it to that extent, but it's just like there's certain parts of your life that might be making you more masculine than feminine. I actually remember when I was younger, I went through my tomboy stage and I remember thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, I'm literally the one who looks and dresses and acts the most like a guy in my like friendship groups. And like all the girls around me were always wearing like very feminine colors or patterns and they just acted like girls. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why am I so masculine, low key? Like, it was just weird. But I think also back then I probably had more guy than girlfriends. But yeah, it just depends on like the stage of your life as well. Obviously, I was younger back then. I wasn't married. Evaluate what is in your life that is literally taking feminine energy away from you, because like being feminine is definitely a mindset, it's an attitude, and it's something that you can feel you are becoming. Like you feel womanly, you feel female, and you feel girly. And I feel like if there's anything in your life that is kind of in your way and stopping you from getting to that point, then they're probably pushing you towards the more masculine side, because it is a spectrum. It's helpful to evaluate what is going on in your life and what is just not serving you and your feminine self. My very last point is to evaluate your future self and what you want in your future, where you can inject your femininity into those traits. So for example, I would love to be a mum. And so I am thinking constantly about what is going to make me ready to be a mum, because that is in itself already a very feminine role, probably like the most feminine role I could ever be in my life. And I'm already a wife, so how do I build on that and basically build and prepare myself towards being a mum as well? And so for me, it's about having friends who I know are going to support me throughout pregnancy, possible infertility before that, newborn life, toddler life, little kid life, and obviously beyond and beyond. And I just want to know like who is really going to be there for me and to support me, because that is what I want for my life as a female. And then you might be thinking, okay, but I'm a career gal. Like I want to work on my career until I'm 32 and then I'll have kids. And that's fine too. Like there's nothing wrong with that pathway to an extent. And so I think with your future and how you really see yourself. It's how do you see your future and how do you want to place your femininity in that future. So for example, if you want to be a career girl, dress like an office siren and put effort into some nice feminine outfits. How are you still going to maintain your femininity when there's a lot of male managers in your workplace? Like, how are you going to like work towards those kinds of traits into being someone who is going to be a female senior manager in the next decade? Like, how do you see yourself actually creating those steps in order to get there? And so I think it's very important to think about what you want for yourself, where you envision yourself, and how you're going to be feminine doing those things, rather than just thinking of like a bunch of goals to tick off in the next couple decades, which is great and everyone should have goals, but also how are you going to like maintain your femininity throughout those things? Because I think it really helps to be a feminine girl and a masculine man. Like, I genuinely just believe in those gender tropes, and I think that they really do help you through life. We obviously don't see them as like idols and like ways to live above living as a Christian, but they are definitely helpful and also can like blend into the biblical idea of gender as well. And so that's why I believe in femininity so much, because I feel like I've become so much more myself and so much more just back to who I really am in my mid-20s so far. I feel like I have really just become the reverted version of myself from when I felt like I could really just be me from like 7 to 11 years old. Like, in that stage of life when you're just a kid and you're literally just being the person who you know yourself to be at that point. And I feel like I've gone back to those interests and been so much more unashamed and just blatantly into what I'm into. Be unashamed about that, and the fact that I actually like pink. I like wearing it. I like doing my makeup. I like making reels. I like doing inherently girly female activities. And I love that I have a weekly schedule where I am allowed to see people and I have hobbies, and I basically spend a lot of time to myself, being able to invest in what I find really fun. And my husband is like working really hard in his office, and like he is doing his work and grinding, and that's because that is a more masculine trait than a female one. And yeah, I just really have been loving my life, and I feel like I've been so much more back into being a woman rather than just being like me. I used to be an extreme type A person, and I still want to be organized, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be like an unreliable friend, but I definitely am so much more relaxed since starting my health journey, because anxiety and being type A was such a big part of the conditions that I have been diagnosed with. And so being able to now be so much more relaxed has also helped me be in my feminine. So that's a little extra tip as well. Just being a relaxed person and knowing that God's got this, your husband's got this. Like, yes, you have your own brain and your own intelligence, but knowing that you can rely on someone like your husband is just the best feeling ever. So I hope that this was helpful. I know it was pretty simple. I know that I didn't have like a billion points or anything, but I just hope that talking about this topic can make you think a bit more about it as well, because it's not a massive topic. But I personally just love being a girl and I love being feminine, and I thought that just making a little video on this would be helpful for some people. So I'll see you guys in my next one.